How can you decorate for the holidays using Dollar Tree Christmas cards and other wrapping supplies? Let me show you how today on White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy, and I'm so happy you're here. So these are some supplies that I had from last year in my wrapping bin, and they were left over. And these cards, however, I did pick up to actually do projects I had in mind, but I ran out of time, so I'm going to do them this year. This tissue paper I thought was such a pretty pattern, and then I have some gift bags that are super sweet, and then these gift boxes that you can wrap sweaters and big things in. So we're going to start with our gift bag projects. So fresh baked goodies usually are part of our Christmas decor and is pretty much a staple, but I really love that this has the red and pink together. So I love the bag and I wanted to use this anyway. I thought it would be cute to wrap a present in, but I think it's even cuter as a piece of decor. So I'm going to take some foam board scrap pieces, and if you don't have any foam board, you can always use some scrap cardboard like from boxes. This was from a project I did a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to just measure those down to the size of my box, and you actually want to go a little bit smaller than the actual, I said box, huh? I meant bag, but anyway, it's going to kind of become a box. So I'm going to measure a little bit smaller and then cut those pieces down and do all 5 parts. So you'll have the 4 sides and then the bottom. And that's just going to give our bag some reinforcement so it doesn't collapse, and we can fill it with some really pretty Christmas goodies and use it as a real piece of holiday decor. So I took some candy stripe ribbon from Hobby Lobby and some pink burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I made a sweet little bow, well, sweet medium-sized bow, and I'm just gonna hot glue that to the top of my bag, kind of so it's sitting on top of it. So if you kind of just mush it around that top ledge, that'll give it some security. And then for the tails, I want to kind of suggest where it goes by using some hot glue. And again, here I'm using my HOTO glue gun. It's electric and cordless and rechargeable, and I love this glue gun. I'll have the link in the description box below. And then I'm just gonna kind of zhuzh those little tails onto my bag so that they're nice and flowy and cute. And you can also see that I made the pink one a little bit smaller than the red and white one so that both of them show, and it just gives it some more fanciness. And then I'm going to add some lifters inside just to get my pieces to be on different levels. And then I added a couple of frosty trees and some baking items and just tuck it all in there in that same color scheme. Because this is a baking themed bag, I thought it would be really cute to put some spoons and an oven mitt. And I even have a little baking tray in the back. It doesn't really show, but it keeps everything propped up and in place and gives it some cute security in the back. Anyway, here it is all finished, and I think this is so adorable, and you saw it took about 5 minutes to do. I think this would also be a really great gift if you wanted to give some baking items away as a gift. In the meantime, you can use it as decor in your own home and then give it away. But I love this, and I hope you guys like it too. Now you may remember a couple of years ago, I made this super cute little holy couple, and I got the inspiration for that project from Anna at His Workmanship Design. She makes these adorable sets, and she's since expanded her line to include some shepherds and some adorable little sheep, and they come with different colored head pieces. Well, we're teaming up again this year, and you may also have seen my large size Christmas Trilogy book set made out of boxes. So since I had the large set this time, she's gonna make the smaller version of this, and I think it came out so pretty. We used the same fonts. Again, it's the Christmas Trilogy. It comes with the scriptures that correspond with each of those stories. So with your family, you can read the Bible together. I just think this is so gorgeous. She just crushed it on this. I'll have her Etsy store linked in the description box below. She has a limited supply, but also she has free shipping for orders over $35. So get them while you can. I love it, and I hope you guys like it too. So back to our gift bag projects. I'm going to take these two bags, and they don't go together, but they kind of do because they're both Christmassy and cute. And then I'm going to take two of these signs, also from the Dollar Tree from Valentine's Day, and you can see they have a little frame around them. So I thought this would be perfect to just use these as new signs. So I'm going to take the jute hanger off of the sign, and then I'm also going to take off the bumpity bumps from the front of the sign. All I'm going to do is cut these down to fit into these frames. I'm also going to set a piece of the ribbon holder aside, and that'll be our hanger for each of our signs. So I took some glue, and I'm just going to rub it onto the front of my sign, and I didn't even pull off the paper that was already on there or the glitter that's on there as well. Now, something about these bags, they have like foil on the front sides of them, and then on the back they're plain, but the back side has the crease, you know, where it folds at the bottom. So I think the foil looks really pretty and adds some shininess to these signs. Again, you don't have to put these together, but if you find a bag that goes with your colors or Christmas decor, this would be a perfect way to add another sign to either a shelf or on the wall, or as a pair if you find similar ones. I think these look really cute together, so if you're doing multicolors, this is perfect. So then just to add my hanger, I'm gonna take those little hard pieces and put that into the glue that I put on the back. And I do measure in to make sure, you know, because I don't like to measure, but when you have to, you have to. And my little ribbon will be in the same distance away from the sides so that they hang nice and straight. But here they are, all finished, and I think these are just so pretty, and you saw how easy that was, but it really makes for some pretty decor that took really no time at all and is only a couple of bucks. I love these, and I hope you guys like them too. So here's some of the cards that I picked up. I got these packs that have 4 in each one with the pretty trees, and then I picked up this one. This is a tri-fold one. I thought this was really pretty because of the colors, and we're gonna do something cute with that. And then I love, love, love the design on this ornament, and you can see how intricate and pretty this is. I ended up getting 3 of these because the project I want to do is going to take 3 of them, so I got those. And then this one I picked up because I thought it was really pretty. First of all, it has the nativity story on there, and I really love the cutout at the top, so we're going to use that one. And then sometimes you can find similar cards, kind of like where they're the same style or colors. These both have some red foil on them, so you can't really see it in this shot here, but it has the shininess, and so we're going to use those in our first project. So all of these, I'm going to set my envelopes aside because we're going to use those too. But I'm also going to use a couple of sheets of this red foil paper that was sent to me from Whitney in our last mystery box from, I guess that was October. I'm going to cut those down to the size of my frames. Oh yeah, we're using 2 8x10 Dollar Tree frames as well. These have like a mercury glass finish on them. So I just used that back panel to cut out the size that I needed. And then Dollar Tree carries these little these little sticky dots, and all you do is you pull them off of the backing sheet and then put it onto the surface that you want to stick. and then pull up that little plastic piece. And these come in handy for so many things, and this project was one of those things. So I'm going to take this card. I didn't even cut it in half. I'm just going to leave it, you know, as a card, but then put it onto my foil paper and then mush that down, make it all nice and flat, make sure it's in the middle, and then we're going to put this into each of our frames, and then we'll put the backing on it. And you can use these, of course, with the little kickstand of the frame itself, and just set them on a countertop or in a shelf, anywhere you want. It's so hard to do it when it's got glass on there. You can see all my lights. But we're going to go ahead and level this up one more notch. But again, you could be done right here, and it's super easy, less than, I don't know, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, something like that, but also super easy. So you can see I'm just pushing those little tabbies back onto the back so that it stays in place. But look how cute they are together. I think they're adorable and super Christmassy, and these are really pretty colors. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Dollar Tree 2-inch ribbon in this pretty red, kind of what I was thinking matches the red foil of it all. And I'm going to make a really pretty sweet bow, and then I'm also going to take another piece and then flip that over, make a little loop at the top and hot glue that down. But then at that bottom part, there's a little flap you see there at the bottom. I'll put my bow or glue it right onto the bottom part of that loop. And then for the rest of it, where that little tab is, I'm going to hot glue that to the top back of one of my pictures. And then here's an example of why you should really measure these things, just to make sure that it gets in the middle. But I'm going to put that at the top of one. And then again, I'm going to suggest where my tails go at the top of my picture frame. And then I'm going to put them together and make sure that you have some sort of straight edge against the sides so that they stay level. And then I'm going to take another small piece and put that on the back in between both of those pictures. And once I get it glued down, I'm actually going to pick up the bottom picture, and then I can glue again right underneath where the lip of the frame is, so that that piece of ribbon stays snug as a bug in a rug when it's hanging, because you know the weight of the bottom frame is going to be hanging on that, so we want that to be nice and secure. And then to finish it off, I'll take one more small piece and glue that at the bottom, and I'm going to give that a little dovetailed edge there. And then it just looks like it's a full flowing piece of ribbon hanging like it used to be. I don't know, these were really popular back in the day. So we're saving a little bit of ribbon here, but also making it look like one cohesive piece. And here it is, all finished, and I think this is so pretty. Again, it's really hard to film things that have that reflective surface, so you can see the rest of my house in the reflection there. But look how pretty this is, and I love mercury glass just in general, but these frames really do look not so cheesy and chintzy, you know what I mean? So again, super pretty, but extremely budget friendly for your Christmas home decor. I love this, and I hope you guys like it too. So now for this project, we're going to be using this purple card, and again, I'll set aside my envelope. Now this one I'm going to cut right down the middle, and I'm going to be using both sides. I'm also going to be using a Dollar Tree vase, and this is the 10.5-inch tall vase. So what's going to happen is I'm going to put this into the vase, and you know, it's going to be curved like this. And then for the other side, I'm going to use that second part of the card, and at the top I'm going to trace out that pretty skyline and then cut that out for the other side of the card. And then that way, you know, they both have the pretties going across the top, and it's just going to give it some interest. But also because one side is also purple, or you know, the inside is purple, I'm going to flip it around so that both of the purple sides are going to be facing out from within the vase. So I'm just going to measure and take my hot glue and attach those two together, both of the purples facing up, and then I'll wrap that around and glue it again on the other side, and then poke that right into my vase. And I wanted to read you what the card actually says. There's a sweet little nativity. I don't know if you saw that at the top, and then some little lambs at the bottom. And it says, "'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the earth no crowds were expecting that one humble birth could set into motion a marvelous plan, our Savior, God with us, the true hope of man. But I love this so much, and I knew I wanted to use it somewhere. Oh, and then on the other side, it says, "Celebrating Jesus, the miracle gift of Christmas." So it has a pretty message on both sides. And then I'm just going to use a white candle down at the bottom as a lifter, and then this Pringles container, I'm going to pop that in there as well because you can't see it. The card's covering it. And then I'll put this battery operated Dollar Tree light inside, and it's done. And here it is, all finished. And I think this is so pretty. I don't have any purple Christmas ornaments or anything that I could find, but I think this is just so pretty. And you know, purple is the color that signifies royalty, which our Savior is. But I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. So now this time we're going to be using the card trio that I got, and I just love the looks of these ornaments. I think they're so soft and delicate and super intricate. So I'm going to take my envelopes again and set those aside. We'll be doing another project with all of those in a little while. So I'm going to take these and cut them out, and I'm not going to be cutting out the bow or the little hollies at the top. I'm just going to go loosely, or not loosely, I'm going to go kind of tightly around the edges, but I do want to leave a little bit of that red outline against the design of it. And so at the bottom, it gets pretty intricate. I'm going to go as close to those as I can, but not have to go in and out because I do want this to stay together and not break off. So now I'm going to take a Dollar Tree Easter sign. It's in the shape of a little tag. And then I'm going to paint that with my white, actually it's called Snow White Waverly chalk paint. And then I'm going to take 3 little tumbling tower blocks and put those in a staggered area, one on each side and one in the middle. And those are going to be the risers for my little ornaments. And that's just going to give it a little bit of depth and dimension. Again, super easy. And all of these projects are really probably about 10 minutes or less, maybe. Anyway, I'm going to take some green velvet ribbon, and this I got at Marshall's on a girls' trip at the beach. And so I am using this. I love the color. It's so soft and pretty, and it's, well, it's literally soft too because of that velvet. But I'm just going to take 3 pieces and hot glue those right above each of my Jenga pieces and let that overlap at the top of my tag. And then I'm also, as you saw, put one as the little tag holder, and I just doubled that over and opened the loop and then fed the tails through that. Now you can make this into a hanging piece, or you can put it on a tree, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to be setting this on a shelf, but you could also use a plate holder to hold it up. I mean, the possibilities are endless. But then I'm going to add 3 sweet little bows at the top of each of those ornaments, and then I'll hot glue those tabs of the ribbons over the top. And then just to give it some more Christmas prettiness, I'm going to add some scrap greenery at the very top. And then I put a couple of pine cones from a Dollar Tree stem over to the side. And I didn't want to add another bow because it's already got, you know, triple bonus on there. So I took some of these red hydrangeas. These are from Walmart, and I just took a few apart and then clustered those right next to the pine cones to add some more of that deep pretty red, and then it's done. And here it is all finished. And I had actually set this on this chair to get my staging area ready and all set up and everything. But I thought it was so pretty against this pillow and on this red chair that I just left it there and added a little plant to show you guys how pretty it is. But I love this one, and I hope you guys like it too. So now I'm going to be using these 4 packs of these pretty cards. I think these look kind of vintage, but they're very elegant with this really pretty Christmas tree in embossed gold. These are smaller cards, so along with those come smaller envelopes. But I just made a template to cut these at a point at the bottom. And I'm going to keep working on this as we go. You'll see that in a second. But I just made one, and then I'm going to put 2 holes in the corner. We're going to be making a garland with this. Again, I didn't cut off the back part of the card so that it would have more stability. And then once they were all cut out, I was able to go back and use that first one as a template to cut the rest of them out to make sure that all the holes and the pointy was all at the same place. So then I decided to go back with my these are not pinking shears. I mean, it's a zigzag and it's supposed to be, you know, pinking shears, but you could only do like 1 or 2 cuts. These are kids scissors, you know, but anyway, I did what I could and I gave it that zigzag edge. I thought it was a lot cuter. And so now I'm going to string them all together with some jute twine, and I'm going to add 1 wood Dollar Tree bead, and then I'll add one of my little flags, and I go from the front, go back, you know, through the back. So the long part is at the back, so it doesn't cover anything at the front. It says Merry Christmas at the top. I'm not sure if you can see that. And so I don't want my twine covering it. And then I'll add 2 beads in between each of those little flags. So there's a total of 8 cards on this garland. So if you want to do this project, just make sure that you get 2 packages. So then I took some of this gold netted ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to cut them down into strips and then go in between each of my wood beads, and at the end I'll just tie one after the wood bead. Now I was really done with this and I thought it was really pretty the way it was. But then I happened to see this ribbon from the Dollar Tree that has some really pretty gold spiralies all over it, and I thought it was perfect. So what I'm going to do is fold that into a little flag thingy here, or, you know, a bow. Not a bow, what is this called? You know, like an awareness ribbon, you know, crisscross applesauce. And then I'm going to turn it upside down, push that loop up above, and then make the tails go right back down through it. That way all of the pretties are on one side and you can see that gold. And I'm going to do that on each side of my gold ribbon, and it's done. And here it is, all finished, and I think this is so pretty too. It's just enough red, it's just enough white, and then it gives you that gold sparkle. It kind of, I probably shouldn't say this because then you guys are going to think of it too, kind of gives me that Chinese New Year's look, you know, those little red envelopes that you get. But anyway, I just think this is so pretty. Again, just using it for inspiration. If you see little cards you like that work with your home decor for Christmas, pick it up and you can have your own homemade garland too. You can see my uncle's Western on the TV there. So now for this trifold card, I was originally going to use 3 frames with the glass, but I didn't have what I needed and I didn't want to go to the Dollar Tree. So instead I decided to use these 3 frames with the beads and the little clothespin on it. So it's going to work out just fine. So I'm going to take that little jute twine off, and these don't have the tabbies on the back, so I just had to cut those and then pull out the string from the back of it. And then I'll set those beads aside because you know you can use those for something. And then I'm going to cut my cards apart right at the creases. So I'm going to put each of these houses in each of my frames. So I'm going to have to cut down the height of it a little bit. So I just took a little off at the bottom. One thing I didn't notice about these frames is that one of them is different. One of these is not like the others, but that's okay because I just put that one in the middle and I actually really like the difference in the colors. So now I'm going to make my own hinges, and I'm going to be using this faux leather ribbon from the Dollar Tree. So what I want to do is once I get them in the order that I want, I'm going to close up the first one, and then I'm going to set these up so that I can then pull in my third one and put it back to back with that second one. And then just keep peeking in to see if it works. So you'll have a good side on the end, and then 2 back to back, and then 2 face to face. And then on the other side, you'll have the back end. So you'll be able to figure that out, but just so you have a little cheat sheet. So then I took little strips of my faux ribbon Now this first attempt doesn't work out, but I thought I would show it to you because these frames are made out of something, it's not plastic, but whatever it is, it's so smooth that hot glue does not stick to it. But I'm still gonna show you how I put it together. So the little ribbons are gonna go on the second and third piece, and I did 3 pieces on each side. Then I flipped it over and did the other 2 pieces, the first and second, or third and I don't know, you saw what I did, first and second, and then second and third, and I did those with 3. So this is gonna make it to where it has that accordion movement, and you can open it, but watch this. Oh, look, see, it didn't stick. So I had to go back and do some staples right into that. And even that was a little bit hard. This stuff is, I don't know, alien space technology. But this way my little strips are going to stay in place. And I ended up only using 2. Now you'll be able to see it from the other side. And because I put on glue at first, you can see the glue that's on there. It doesn't show that much, but if you do this, just know the glue's not gonna work, so you won't have that problem. So now I'm gonna raise up my little houses with some Jenga pieces, and I'm gonna put 2, but I'm also gonna leave some space at the bottom and in between. Now this will obviously be covered up by my houses, and that's why I'm putting them in the middle. But I'm spacing them apart because I'm also going to be adding some fairy lights. So in order to do that, I'm going to have the little battery pack, leave it a little bit of room, and then I'll do a figure 8 around my Jenga pieces, and I'll do it twice on the outside, once on the middle frame, and then twice again on that third frame. And then I'm going to feed it through the back end of that ribbon just so it kind of stays in place a little bit better. And the Jenga pieces, because we have a little bit of glue on the inside of them, there's just enough room in the corners to push that wire right up under there so that it stays snug as a bug in a rug. And then we're going to glue our little houses onto our Jenga pieces, and that is it. And it's done. And here it is all finished, and I think this is so cute and super easy, but it gives a little bit of Christmas light. You could add some more trees to this. I just wanted to be able to show you exactly everything, how it's set up. And then instead of just doing it as the 2 sides coming in, you can also do it, like I said, in an accordion fashion. But the most important part is that when you go to store this, you can fold it up like I showed you before, and then it's going to stay in place and not get messed up. But I love it, and I hope you guys like it too. So now instead of throwing all of those envelopes away, I'm gonna use some scrap foam board and cut those down to fit inside of my envelopes so that it looks like there's something inside, something a little thick just to give it a little bulk there. So I'll just take my scissors because it doesn't have to have a perfect edge, and it's okay if it gets crushed a little bit. And then I'm just gonna stick that inside of my envelopes, and then I'll lick that first one, and that'll be the only one I lick because it tastes icky. And then I'm just gonna seal it up and then make a little stack of these. So on my next one, I used a little sponge brush to get water on there instead of having to lick it. But I'm gonna make a little stack of these. So however many you wanna use, including the smaller ones, just make it as tall or as short as you want to. So then I took some ink from an ink pad, and I'm just gonna go over the edges just to give it a little bit of shadowing and antiquing, I guess, to give it some age. I had just gotten my nails did, so I didn't wanna get any ink on them, so that's why I have gloves on here. And then I started writing little things on the fronts, but not all of them are gonna show. So I'm just writing North Pole Post Office. I realized that mostly what was gonna show was like where the return address would be. So then I started having fun and putting our old addresses in the corners. And then on some of them I had put like our grandchildren's names and just whatever. I was just playing with my calligraphy pen, and not much of this is gonna show anyway. And then once you put one grandchild's name, you kind of have to put all of them so that nobody feels left out. out if they see this, you know. Anyway, and once I put it in a stack, I noticed I wanted to have a little bit of white in there. So I went ahead and stuffed a couple of white envelopes that I had. And then once I got it into the shape that I want, because I don't want them just perfectly stacked, I wanted them staggered and, you know, loosely, like it would be sitting on a desk or something in a pile. So I'm gonna glue those one at a time, and then once I get them the way that I want them to be, I'm gonna take some really pretty Dollar Tree ribbon with these little teeny pom-poms at the ends. This is wire edged ribbon, so it's always easier to work with. And I'm just gonna start to make a bow. And then before I tie it into that sweet little bow, I'm gonna take a chalkboard tag from the Dollar Tree, and then using my white gel paint pen, I'm gonna, well, I don't know if it's gel. I don't know why I said that. It's a white paint pen, but I'll have some linked in the description box below and in the shopping icon. But I'm just gonna write letters to Saint Nick, and then just give it some fancy writing, and then I'll attach that to the bow and tie the little bow into a sweet little bow. No, I can't say bow that many times. And I really should have waited until the ink was dry, but I just wasn't feeling that fruit of patience right then. So if you do this, just make sure that the paint is really dry. And then of course we're gonna dovetail the ends to make it super cutie patootie. And then just to add some more Christmas cuteness, I'm gonna take some scrap greenery and pop that right under the bow. And it's done. And here it is, all finished. And I think this is so adorable, and I didn't have to throw away these envelopes. It's super Christmassy and goes perfectly with one of our gift bag signs. And you could really put this anywhere. It's so adorable. I love it, and I hope you guys like it too. So if you're like me, you do not throw away your Christmas cards, and so of course I have an extended collection. This is just a few. These are actually the ones that didn't get put away from last year, but I'm gonna take these and use a Dollar Tree wood ornament. I'm gonna use the back side and leave the little elfie part intact. But I am going to take off the little holder as well as the top piece there, the little tin piece. And then I'm going to paint the backs of these white with my Waverly chalk paint. And I'm going to get the sides and paint all of the front completely white. Of course, you can do whatever color you want. But I'm going to use this adorable Christmas card from last year from my sister in Texas and her beautiful family with all of my nieces and nephews. And I'm going to take a piece of tape and tape it onto the ornament and then trace around on the back and cut that out so that it'll fit at the bottom of my ornament. And then this one, this is my cousin who lives in Virginia. I'm gonna do the same thing with this one, but it says Christmas at the bottom. So I'm gonna push this one up towards the top and cut off where it says Christmas because I couldn't fit the whole thing onto the ornament. And then this one from my cousin's son and his wife and their kids, I'm gonna take this one and cut it apart because the way the card, well, you see it, it's got little individual pictures. And so that one's just gonna be placed however I want it. So all to say, you can do the layout however you want based on whatever the card looks like or how it's set up. And then I'm gonna replace all of the little tin toppers to the ornaments with my hot glue, and then add some greenery for Kylene and her family. I'm gonna put it at the bottom with some bells. And then for Kim and her family, I'm gonna put it at the top where it had the opening. And then I'm not gonna put any on Heather and Damon's. And then I'm gonna take my beautiful velvet green ribbon and just feed that through the top. And that's all there is to it. And I think this is such a great idea that you can place on your tree every year. You can have a whole family tree with just all of these beautiful faces. And you know, they take the time to send these cards, and I don't want to throw them away, but this way I can actually see them every year. But I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. So for this project, I'm going to be using the tissue sheets. I've got the red with the black and white, which I totally love. I'm going to cut this down into 3.5-inch squares. So 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And this is super easy to use because you've got the lines on there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you know, nothing ever is. So then I took some clear glue and a little piece of a dowel. And I'm going to take a piece of the tissue paper. Oh, and I also forgot to tell you that I'm going to be using a Dollar Tree styrofoam cone, but I'm placing my dowel right in the center of the little square of tissue paper, dipping it into my glue, and then poking it right into the styrofoam. And I'm going to do this all the way around in rings, and I'll alternate between the black and white pattern and the red solid tissue. Now, one thing I will tell you is that after a while, the glue kind of started getting gunky at the end of my dowel, and it started pulling the tissue out once I pushed it in, you know, because it was sticking onto the actual dowel. So I ended up starting to use my hot glue, and that made it actually go a little bit faster. It was a little bit cleaner and just worked out better for me. So whatever works for you, that's what you need to do. Or you could just wipe off the end of the dowel every now and then. But anyway, I'm going to do that all the way up the entire cone until I get to the top. And I actually had all of the reds at the top, and I was going to go look for a star, but I decided instead that I was going to just use another piece of tissue paper. I'll show you that in a second, because I didn't like the stars I had on hand. So then I'm going to take a black Dollar Tree candle holder, and I thought this was so perfect, and it's so cute. And so we're going to add some hot glue and put our little tree right on top. Again, this probably took, well, this one was maybe the most time consuming, but I would say less than 20 minutes. And you could do a duo, you know, make one a little bit taller. You could do different patterns and colors for this, but I think it's so adorable. And again, I'm showing it here next to one of our gift bag signs. I love the look of black and white and red. I've done that a few times in my Christmas decor, but I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. So Dollar Tree carries some really cute patterns or designs on their gift boxes, and this is really good if you don't feel like wrapping your gifts too. But I'm going to take two of these old wooden hangers, and these are from my Uncle Fred. They actually, at one of the facilities he was at, they wrote his room number on them. So I'm going to paint over those, but the way this is going to work is I'm going to use the boxes as signs, and the bottom part of the box I'm going to use as the backing to the pretty design on the front. So I'm just going to take my hot glue and glue all the corners or the edges down, or the flaps of the box. I'm going to glue all those down so that they're nice and snug as a bug in a rug. And then I'm going to cut down the white piece from the back box, or the bottom part of the box, and I'm just going to cut it a little bit smaller than the lid so that when I glue it onto the back, it's not going to show from the sides. So now I'm going to take my white chalk paint and give my hangers a little bit of a dry brush. Not really dry, but you know, let some of that pretty wood peek through. And this was really neat because one of them shows cleaners in Blythe, California, which is where my uncle's from. I put that on the back part of my sign so that I can maybe use this for something else and let that part show. But because the other one didn't have it, I didn't want, you know, it to be too mismatched. But I'm also going to take these little hooks, or they're not hooks, they're the little eye screw thingies, and I'm going to paint those black. You'll see why in just a second, just to kind of match with everything else. This is going to get a little scratched up, but that doesn't matter. So again, with my measuring, I had to find the center, and I found that the easiest way to do this was to just put where I want, or kind of where I want my hooks to go. And then I'll place that same marking onto my hangers. And once I get the approximate area of where I want it, I'm gonna measure in to make sure it's the same on both sides. And then once I get those, I'm gonna place the other hanger on top of the first one and then mark that one so that everything is all lined up and perfectly level. Now I'm going to take my Milwaukee drill and I'm going to drill a pilot hole into the hanger at the bottom so that I can then screw in my little eye hook. And then once I couldn't turn it anymore, I'm going to use a screwdriver and stick it in there so that I can get that turned all the way, as far as I could, so that none of the silver was showing from the screws. You see what I'm saying? So now that my eye hooks are in, I'm going to mark that onto my box, and then that's going to tell me where to put my holes. Now you remember these little chains from the Dollar Tree? We get those for the hanging baskets. I'm going to take 3 links of these, and then using my needle nose pliers, I'm going to open up the 4th link to pull out those 3. And then I'm going to use my crocodile, which I'll also have linked in the description box below, to make those holes. And you're going through 3 pieces of cardboard, so you really do need this and not just a regular hole punch. And then I'm going to place the little clips into my gift bags and then pull off the 3rd link of my chain and then place it onto the eye hook and then put it right back onto the other 2 links. You see what I'm doing here? And then I'll squeeze it closed so that it doesn't come off. And then I'm going to take some more pretty Christmas greenery and hot glue that to the top of my hanger, add a sweet little gingham bow right in the middle, and persuade those tails where to stay, and then it's done. And here it is all finished, and I think this is so adorable. Again, I just worked with the boxes that I had, and they happened to have to do with letters to Santa and sending letters and postage stamps. I think it's so adorable, and I love how they turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed all of these projects, and if you did, don't forget to give this a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. If you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell right next to it, so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. Don't forget to check out Anna's Etsy shop. And did you know you can also hit the hype button if you like these projects? Don't forget to also check me out on Instagram and join our Facebook group page, the Dollar Tree Sparrow's Nest. Remember the real reason for the season. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye.